This week, should the older homeowner be taking some of their winnings off the table? Are they over-invested in their home?
Click on the banner above to learn more about our sponsor, Fairway Independent Mortgage.
Let's say just this January you had 80% of your assets invested in hotel and entertainment stocks, and they made you a healthy chunk of change. And for the sake of argument, let's say those stocks were consistently outperforming your expectations. But then came March and the arrival of the novel coronavirus. If you did find yourself holding those positions after the pandemic broke, you probably got clobbered in the stock market. And much like being overinvested in just one or two companies, today many are actually overinvested in their home. And that's a point that HomeTap Equity Partners CEO and co-founder Jeffrey Glass made in last month's Reverse Mortgage Daily virtual event, HEQ, the Future of Home Equity and Retirement. He says if a client did have the bulk of their wealth tied up in just one stock, what would a financial professional say? They would probably warn them and say you need to diversify. Glass said this: if that were a stock and you had 60 to 90% of your net worth tied up in just one stock, no matter how much you loved it, any financial advisor would tell you you're over-concentrated, particularly since you're over-concentrated in an asset that's illiquid. And while Glass was speaking in the context of alternate equity products, his analogy nevertheless rings true. So what about housing wealth? To be frank, home equity is merely an illusion that exists on paper until it's separated from the home. And you can still almost hear the echoes of those excited voices just 12 years ago who were boasting about their newfound wealth or the equity that they made. And we all know how that story ended. The point is, equity, or value if you prefer, in the bricks and mortar of a house is neither safe or guaranteed to be there tomorrow. And that leaves the older homeowner with two choices to extract the equity. One, they can sell and right-size into a new home at today's housing prices, or two, they can separate a portion of the home's value and then remain in place. The former requires them to uproot themselves, and the latter a tool to extract the equity from the roof over their heads. So let's stop here right now and just for a moment ask ourselves this one question: will home values continue to go up in 2021? To be honest, we don't know. Now, there may be an indicator of a real estate market correction, but perhaps we should be recalling the lyrics from Blood, Sweat, and Tears hit Spinning Wheel. What goes up must come down, spinning wheel got to go round. And round does the housing market go. It's a cyclical market that ebbs and flows, and many experts are seeing the employment rate as being the real linchpin of future real estate values. All of that leads us back to our original question: should the older homeowner be taking some of their winnings or their home equity off the table? Perhaps. But there are two hurdles that first must be cleared. That is the fear and misunderstanding that surrounds the reverse mortgage, and the upfront costs to diversify their equity holdings, that is the value in their home. So before you dive into the intricacies of how a HECM works with the homeowner, it's best to begin with the broad brushstrokes, such as, do you plan on living in your home for the foreseeable future? And the bonus question, do you believe that home values will continue to go up in the next year or two, or will they go down? Now, even if they're not reading the Wall Street Journal each week, most homeowners are generally aware of the real estate market's performance, and more importantly, they are old enough to remember earlier housing downturns or crashes, several of them. So what are their options? You know their options well. Besides selling, there is the favorite recommendation that we hear from the media talking heads, and that's get a HELOC or a home equity line of credit. Great, but now they got a monthly payment in addition to their existing mortgage if they have one. So should they sell? Well, the fact is most actually prefer to age in place. And that leads us back to the question: how would you leverage your home's values, take some of the risk of a fall in the home value off the table, and not be saddled with a payment? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems to point in one direction: a reverse mortgage. Even more so, a home equity conversion mortgage that has an open line of credit. Equity makes a great conversation over coffee, but it's meaningless, and most importantly, it is vulnerable until it's separated from the home. Should the older homeowner be taking their quote-unquote winnings off the table? You can chime in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Also, if you would share this video with others, you can do so using the social media links on this page. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next week here at the Industry Leader Update for more news, commentary, and analysis. I'm your host, Shannon Hicks, signing off.